What's up, everyone? My name is Sam. Thanks so much for joining my channel today. Today's Hatha Yoga beginner level flow is going to be designed around the theme of rainy days, such like the one we're experiencing here in Pittsburgh today. It's also really great if you have your period. So when you're ready, jump into something comfortable. We will start on our backs in the middle of our mat when you're ready. All right, feel free to grab a pillow if you want to as we drop in, but we're gonna just start on our backs with some gentle hip opening stretches. So when you get there, just start by settling in, feeling the connection of your body to the mat. Maybe open up the palms left to right. You can just rest the soles of the feet on the mat, knees bent. And we'll start just by crossing that left ankle over the right knee. And just start pulling that left hip, left knee open without your hands, just using muscular strength, just to start to notice what you feel. As you do that, you can start connecting with the breath and connecting with the body, starting to observe and identify how you feel. The physical body, the intellectual body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body. Use your fingertips or your left hand to gently press in to the inside edge of that left thigh, not forcing anything, just pressing gently, exploring your range a little further. We've progressed through these poses a bunch of times in this class, so feel free to go at your own pace if you want to. Remember, this practice is your own. Make it your own. Be curious in your body. And when you're ready, kick that right foot up off the mat, maybe interlacing the fingers behind the thigh, or maybe even in front of the right shin. Pressing that left elbow gently in the inside of the left thigh. Just pulling that right knee toward the face, or maybe just finding stillness. And maybe rocking gently side to side. Feel free to extend through that right knee and send that right heel toward the ceiling if it feels good. Maybe try bending into that right knee to interlace the fingers in front of the right shin if it's in your practice today. Just checking in with and waking up the hip, left hip in this case. Just noticing how you feel here today, taking your time. On this rainy morning, those are the vibes. If you want a mantra for today's practice, it might be something like, I embrace the flow of life and find peace within. Could also be something like the earth, I allow rain to nourish and renew me. Maybe just a general kind of self-care mantra, which with each breath, I soothe and support my body. Take your time releasing that right foot to the mat, unraveling the legs to switch sides. Move at your own pace when you're ready. Cross that right ankle over the left knee and start that same process in the right hip. Just pulling that right knee open. Moving very slowly and with intention as we get started, just connecting with the breath. Noticing how you feel. Maybe bringing those right fingertips or right palm to the inside edge of that right thigh. Not forcing anything, just noticing. When you're ready, feel free to kick up that left foot and bring your fingers interlaced to the back of the left thigh or maybe the front of the left shin. Take any variation that's calling to you. Checking in with the hips. I'm going to take our time here and then have a little fun with an inversion. It's a little shoulder stand practice. Go ahead and release that left foot to the mat when you're ready. Maybe just let the knees fall to the left and to the right. Just again, checking into that internal and external rotation in the hips. We're going to stay on our backs. Make sure you check around you before you begin. Make sure you have enough space in the room. You may want to recenter yourself on the mat. But from our backs, we're going to lift. Fold the knees in toward the chest. We're going to raise the hips off the ground and bring our hands to behind the hips to support them. Elbows on the mat in our shoulder stand. So that's going to look something like this. Bringing your hands to the low back or the hips, sending the feet up toward the ceiling. Getting nice and long, really reaching. Noticing what you feel and where. And coming out of that when you're ready. Rolling up to sitting and to all fours. Take your time there. Feel free to practice that shoulder stand as long as it's enjoyable or fruitful for you. Remember that my cues are just suggestions and you design the flow that you need. So once they're in once they're in tabletop, we're gonna practice a little cat-cow here and take any variation that you like. So you can start with the traditional cat-cow, syncing up with the breath, inhaling, dropping the belly, lifting the tail, lifting the gaze, exhaling, curling the ribs inwards, stretching through the upper back, pressing into the palms. So you can move between those two poses, or you can also move the spine organically. So we're just warming up through the spine, maybe imagining you're inside of a tube or a barrel and trying to touch all the sides of the inside of that tube or barrel. Bending into the elbows a bit, just letting the spine move as it wants to. Keeping those palms planted, knees planted. Just checking in, maybe reversing those circles. Try to explore, try to be curious, articulating through the vertebrae. Spine is really cool because it can move in a lot of different planes of motion, and moving it in ways that we don't typically move it. Of course, with mindfulness and with ease. It's really good for releasing toxins and stored energy in the body. Take your time there. Feel free to incorporate maybe some hip circles. Or just stay in your traditional cat-cow, synced up with the breath, whatever feels right for you today. When you feel good about it, we'll come back to that tabletop position, nice neutral spine, palms under the shoulders, knees under the hips. And beginning with the left knee, I'm going to lift the knee off the mat and start to draw circles just with that knee on the left side. Sending it back, then pulling it forward. Again, just checking in with the hip, lubricating the hip joint, noticing what you feel. We're going to eventually bring that left foot to the outside edge of the left hand. Take your time getting there. Feel free to go through those hip rotations as many times as you want. From here, we'll just walk that foot in toward the center of your mat, coming into a low lunge. So feel free to walk that right foot back a little more. If you want a little more engagement in the hips, sink down deep there, notice what you feel. And we're just gonna sit here in this low lunge for a moment. So take what you need from it. You can find stillness, you can press down toward the mat, as passive or as active as you want it to be. When you're satisfied in this pose, we're gonna move into a runner's lunge on this side. So make sure you walk that right knee back toward the back edge of your mat pretty far so that you feel quite a bit of tension here. That way you'll be able to extend fully through the left knee, bringing the left toes toward the ceiling, really getting into that left hamstring, relaxing through the head and neck, reconnecting with the breath. Slowing down, making this as passive or as active as you want. You can also pull that left heel in toward the left hip for a little bit more engagement in the hamstring, but don't force anything. Meet your body where it is. No pressure, just enjoy. Feel good about it. You can bend into that left knee, bringing the sole of the left foot back to the mat. You can heel toe that left foot back over to the outside edge of the left hand before sending it back for all fours or tabletop. And we'll start the same sequence on the second side, just by lifting that right knee and drawing big circles with it toward the front edge of the mat. Just checking in with that right hip. Maybe putting your mind's eye there. Maybe enjoying some rain sounds. Checking in. When you're ready, you know what to do. We'll bring that right foot to the outside edge of the right hand, and then walk it in toward the midline of the mat. Maybe walk that left knee back a little bit further, just to sink down into this low lunge. So take what you need here. Maybe find stillness and turn inward. Maybe pressing down toward the earth. Maybe reconnecting with the breath if you lost focus. Noticing what you feel and where without getting overwhelmed. And when you're ready, make sure that left foot is walked back, that left knee is walked back as far as you need to. We'll extend through that right knee, bringing the right toes toward the ceiling. Coming into that runner's lunge, runner's stretch. Turning inward. Take some deep, quiet breaths. Turn inward. Embrace the sound, smell, sensation of the rain. Take your time on this side, checking in with that right side hamstrings. When you're ready to come out of it, do so mindfully. We'll start by bending into that right knee, just rolling back onto the sole of that right foot. You can walk that right foot back out to the right, and then send it back for tabletop. From here, let's bring the big toes into touch, send the knees as wide as is comfortable, maybe the width of your mat, and then send the hips back toward the heels, coming into extended child's pose. Forehead, chest, come down to the mat. Take a moment just to melt down into the mat. Notice what you feel. Take a few cycles of breath just to reflect on your mantra. Let something go. Be present in the body. Quiet the mind. From here, let's bring our awareness just to our fingertips. Press in gently to raise the forearms off the mat and the forehead. And then we'll walk the hands over to the left side, melting down somewhere near or over that left knee, wherever your range allows, bringing the forehead down to the earth. Maybe walking those right fingertips a little bit further. Press in once again to do the same thing on the second side, moving from the left to the right, slowly, gently, and mindfully. Finding your range on that second side, melting it downward. Maybe walking those left fingertips a little bit further. Checking in with the side body, anchoring down through the hips. When you're ready, bringing your awareness back to the fingertips. Lifting the forehead, coming back through center. From here, we're actually going to come up onto all fours just to reset into a traditional child's pose. So you're just bringing the knees in together near the midline of the mat, shins together, sending the hips back, forehead to the earth, palms open toward the ceiling. Take a moment here in traditional child's pose just to listen to the next cues. We are going to move from this traditional child's pose into cobra and back for a few iterations. So when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes if they're closed. We'll bring the palms forward toward the top corners of the mat. And from here, we're going to just extend forward through the all fours position and continuing beyond that to lower the hips toward the mat, coming into your cobra pose. So we're going to move back and forth between this pose and that traditional child's pose. So feel free to move at your own pace. You can keep the palms planted where they are or drag them back to that open toward the ceiling position. Either way, let's keep some continuous movement. Just transitioning from child's pose to cobra. Sync up with your breath. Notice what you feel and where. Give yourself some space, some grace, just to move slowly and with intention, and to connect with the breath. Wherever you are, let's go through one more cycle of this transition. And then we will land on our bellies at our own pace. Take your time getting there. Once you're there, lower all the way down to the belly. You can recenter yourself if you need to. From here, we're going to bring the chest also down to the mat. We're going to bend into both knees as you're ready and bring the hands to the outside edge of each foot. So you're just grabbing your feet, the outside edge. Bring your gaze down toward the mat. Settle in there. And then we're going to lift the thighs, the knees, and the chest off the mat, pressing the feet into the hands and just opposing the hands and the feet. So I'm pulling with my hands a little bit, and I'm pressing with the feet, engaging through the back body, noticing what you feel, reconnecting with the breath. Staying lifted, maybe lifting the gaze, and releasing everything back down to the mat when you're ready. Bring the palms under the shoulders and curl the toes under, just to press up to plank. And from plank, we'll send the hips up toward the sky for downward dog. Take your time getting there. Not many downward dogs in today's practice, so enjoy it wherever you land. Remember, we're looking for that flat back position. Heels do not need to touch the ground, so don't pressure yourself about that. Once you settle in here, reconnect with the breath. And then let's sink our weight into that left palm. Lift the right palm off the mat. Bring it to the outside edge of the left shin, left calf. Checking in again with the hamstrings here and the calves. Taking it nice and easy. Rainy day flow. Looking under that left side armpit chest, enjoying that change of perspective. And then releasing that right hand to the mat when you're ready. We'll do the same thing on that second side. Lifting the left hand from the mat and then bringing it to the outside edge of the right calf or right shin. Taking a look underneath the right armpit, noticing what you see, noticing what you feel. Release that left palm when you feel good about it. We'll walk that invisible tightrope all the way up the mat, bringing the feet closer toward the hands at the top edge of the mat, moving nice and slow with intention. Get there how you get there. Don't pressure or rush yourself. Relax when you land in that standing forward fold. Relax through the head, the neck, the shoulders. Make sure you're not tensing or holding anywhere. Maybe pressing those knees further to full extension as long as you're not hyper flexible. Taking some quiet, deep breaths. Enjoying the fullness of your breath. You may be letting something go on your exhale. Let's check in again with the hamstrings by bringing our awareness to the fingertips. Just walking them over to frame that left side of the left foot. Keeping the feet planted, knees at full extension or near there. Just noticing what you feel and how that slight variation changes the engagement in your body. Put your mind's eye there. Notice what you feel. Let's try the same thing on the second side. When you're ready, just walking the right fingertips over to the right, framing that right foot on the right side. So feet stay planted, toes pointing toward the top edge of the mat. Knees at full extension. Reconnect with the breath if you've lost it. Bring your awareness back to the fingertips and we'll come back through center. We're going to move into a wide-legged forward fold from here, so you can take your time getting there. I'm going to turn on my mat to face the long edge, but first I'm just going to curl up slowly and gently, coming into that full standing position with intention. So I'll turn to face you. We're going to find that wide-legged forward fold. So just find a good foot placement where you feel nice and stable, rooted down through the mat. Feet aren't slipping. You feel good. Legs can be anywhere wider than the shoulders. Don't overdo it, but whatever feels good here. You can start with your hands on your hips. And we're just going to send the hips back and find that nice flat back position here in our wide-legged forward fold. Notice what you feel and where. Feel free to bring your hands to the floor or to a yoga block if you need one. Just checking in here. From here, let's center that left palm or left fingertips under the chest. We'll drag the right fingertips along that left arm, across the chest and toward the ceiling. Just noticing what you feel and where. Checking in with that spine. And then cycling that right hand back down to do the same thing on the second side. We'll plant the palm, plant the fingertips. Drag those left fingertips along the right arm, across the chest, and toward the ceiling. And then cycle that left arm back down when you're ready. From here, we're going to move into a goddess pose. So I'm going to point my toes slightly away from one another. Okay. I'm going to put my hands back on my hips if it's accessible to come back up to standing. Nice and slow, like we're moving through water, not in a rush here. And then I'm going to bend into both knees, coming down to about parallel to the mat or whatever is accessible for you today. Just pulling the knees open as much as I can without my hands. Hands will mirror the legs, bending at the elbows, opening the palms toward the ceiling. We're just going to hold here for a moment in goddess pose. Nice and open through the knees, pulling them back. And let's bring the palms to the inside edge of the left thigh and the right thigh, very near your knees. So really close to where your knees are. From here, we're going to drop the right shoulder down toward the center, pressing that right knee open with the palm. And then do the same thing on the left. We'll move through that a couple of times. Dropping the shoulder in, opening up for that external rotation in the hips. Noticing what you feel and where. All right, let's come back up to that static hold just for a few more moments. Getting strong through that base, building strength in the legs and the glutes. And then bring the palms back to the mat. Bend into the knees, take a break. We're gonna come all the way back down to all fours. Move at your own pace, get there how you get there. And we will meet in puppy pose once you're there. So knees under the hips, walking the palms forward toward the top corners of the mat, melting the chest down toward the earth. Reconnecting with the breath. Opening up through the shoulders, stretching through the upper back. Stay nice and passive here. Just resting, or you can engage the abdominals, roll up higher on your forehead, and really press the armpit chest down toward the earth. Just notice how that changes the engagement in this pose and what you feel. Feel free to take any version that's right for you today, right now, here in this practice. And when you're ready, transition out just by dragging the palms in under the shoulders to press up to tabletop. We're going to come onto our backs. So get there how you want to. I like to cross at the ankles and roll back onto my hips. Bringing the legs forward. Once we come to our backs, we're going to try shoulder stand again, and this time we're going to incorporate a little bit of plow practice without pressure, without judgment. So coming to your back, really make sure you're in a good spot on your mat, because we'll practice the shoulder stand and then we'll fold our legs downward, feet downward toward the floor. So just make sure you're not too close to any objects or the wall, etc. We'll start with that shoulder stand again, just by kind of bringing the elbows to the mat, kicking up the feet, bringing the hands under the hips to start with, maybe walking the elbows closer together, bringing the feet together, putting that nice long line, feeling the beauty of that inversion. And then when you're ready, slowly lowering the feet toward the floor. They do not need to touch. Feel free to play around here. If you get into plow pose, feel free to just find stillness there. If you don't, feel free to continue practicing that transition or just staying in your shoulder stand, whatever feels right. Play around there as much as you want. Incorporate that into your practice regularly if you want to. Take your time there, and when you're ready, find Shavasana. On your mat, corpse pose, legs out long, palms open toward the ceiling. It's still raining. Enjoy those sounds. Continue to embrace that rainy day vibe. No pressure, no stress. Not holding on to anything that we can't control, letting go of what's not serving us. Creating space for that renewal, rejuvenation, that new day. If you're the type of person to skip meditation at the end of your yoga practice, firstly, I can relate. That used to be me. So I would encourage you just to settle in here and give yourself 5 more minutes. Just to turn inward and to allow the mind to be quiet. Give yourself that space, that indulgence of time, just to be. Reconnect with the breath if you've lost that, and just notice, just observe. If you get distracted or lose focus during meditation, I encourage you to come back to the sound of your breath or the sound of the rain. Take a few more quiet moments just to enjoy this space that you've created for yourself. Melt down into your mat and absorb the nutrients of your practice. Before I close today's practice, I want to do a quick land acknowledgement, just recognizing that I'm instructing this class from unceded Monongahela, Osage, and Erie lands. Also recognizing that the struggle for Indigenous liberation is ongoing, and there are lots of opportunities for us to support and engage in that. So I encourage you to check out whose land you are practicing from. Find out what Indigenous lands you inhabit. You want to bring your palms together to rest gently on the forehead or at the third eye. To join me in closing, feel free to do so, but only if it feels right. Otherwise, feel free to rest the hands on the body or continue in corpse pose. We also recognize that yoga is an ancient spiritual practice coming from the subcontinent of India and Indian culture. So we recognize that attribution and say thank you. We also recognize that yoga is many things to many different people, including a community. I thank you so much for being part of my community today. I hope you got something you needed here today, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.